All right, and we got 12 people on there. Hi, Susan from New Hampshire. We can see Edith from Rockingham, North Carolina. See, we got Kathleen on YouTube. I gotta mute my thing here. Kathleen says, I can see you loving the leaves. Yeah, those leaves are super cute. So those are called the Tea Time placemats. So we grabbed all of our tulip projects to show you during the during this video. So they're going to be hanging around the room. So anyway, I think it's 1 o'clock basically, Mom, so we can get started right away. Whenever you want.
All right.
We got 16 people on Facebook. We're at now over 20 on YouTube. So I have both of the conversations open, so go ahead.
All right. So we're going to start with Geodes, which is this quilt. These blocks are all part of our Fireworks group, which once I teach you how to do these blocks, there's about 15 patterns, I think, out there that use a combination of all of the Fireworks blocks. And they all have different designs, so some of them have different small circles in here, some of them don't have any designs in here. So, and I think we have 4 designs for this block, but they all assemble basically the same way. You can sew them together as square blocks, or you can sew them together in a group like what we've done that includes 4-block group, which is the setting for our 4th of July pattern and geodes, and I think we have one other that has a setting like that as well. So last week Judelle did a pre-video on how to do the cutting, and I'm just going to tell you that I went through the instructions and decided, well, I'm going to read all the instructions, and then after I read through all of the instructions for about an hour and a half, I went back and looked and watched the video, and I thought, oh, why did I bother reading the instructions? They basically told us everything we wanted to know. So in that video, she talked about this fabric chart that we have, and it shows all of the colors that we have in this quilt that's on the wall. And then she also showed you guys how to set up your color chart. So we have the B group, the B2 group, we have the B1 group, which is the crown star. So I'm just going to point at the B group. The B2 group is this block right here. The crown star is this block. And they're both the same size, so when we do mixers, we can recreate all kinds of elements within the same size block. And so what we've done is use 2 of them for this quilt. And then she also, if you look on the other one, then we also have this one is called the C2 block, which is a rectangle block that has 2 holes in it that allow you to do the curved piecing there. And then the last group of blocks that we have are actually our background templates, which square up the quilt, allowing everything to float.
And I'll make a quick comment on that. I noticed there's a typo on the kitting sheet. We forgot to change group C2, but that should actually say group D, E, and A is basically, it's just the little template pieces.
So anyway, as we're back to me now. So anyway, we went through and we put all of these little swatches on there. If you guys went to this effort to put these swatches on, then you're not going to have to really go through the effort to do the swatches again in your instruction booklet, which you'll see that I have actually I went through and did that so that you could see it done both ways. So this is my instruction booklet, and what I've done is I've come in here and put a fabric swatch off to the side of those boxes, because that way I can see what all my numbers are. And it's easier to read the numbers in the fabric swatch box than it is over here on this side, but they're actually in both places. The other thing I wanted to bring out is there's probably never a reason for you guys to ask how many blocks we have, because on the first page we tell you almost 5 different times you're going to make a total of 36 blocks, and they're broke apart into 4 combinations of groups, into 4 color groups. So no matter where you do your addition, you're going to end up with 36 blocks when you're all done. So we have what we call, we have 2 blocks that are done with a black background, and we have 2 of those color group blocks done with a white background. The spike groups, we have 2 different color of spike groups, and there's 5 colors in the spikes, and we have one of those colors is added to the black group, and the other spike group is added to the black group. So in the white group, you're also repeating those 2 spikes. And so when we're done, you end up with a quilt that has these 2 spikes are the same, these 2 spike groups are the same, these 2 spike groups are the same as these 2, and these 2 spike groups are the same as those 2, all right? And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you several things today. And we're going to be flipping back and forth through the instructions, because I don't think I really have to show you how to cut out the strips. I'm going to show you some different things that we did in this pattern that you are going to want to understand, because sometimes we create template layout sheets, but then we cut them apart before we actually put them onto the fabric, and that's one of the things we did here. We do that in some of our other patterns, so hopefully by the time you get done with this one, you're going to understand. If you open up a pattern that says cut your template layout sheet apart prior to putting it on the fabric, then you'll understand the reason why we do it is so you can use multiple colors with those spikes. The other thing I'm going to go through today is some cheat things that I do to make my life easier. And we're also going to show you how to cut out some foundation papers, that a way I do it that isn't done. We can use a light table, but we can also do it without a light table. And so I want to go through that. And so that's why I said we're going to jump back and forth as we go through this, because I just want to want you guys to watch me do things that might seem really difficult when you're reading instructions, but they're extremely easy to do when you have the materials out in front of you. Okay? So we're going to start with showing you how I cut out my foundation papers. And I wanted to get most of the foundation papers cut, so I'm going to move over to page 13, which is group C2, and we're going to cut those foundation papers out. I'm only going to do it partially because I don't think you guys have to watch me do the whole thing, but I want to explain some things. So we're going to start right here, and we'll come back to this group after a bit, but let's pull all of the foundation papers out. And you guys, if you watched that video last week, you know what's in your packages and how they're divided up into groups. And so I'm not going to go over that again. So, but these are full sheets, and we have 3 pages of them. Okay, and these are our foundation papers. So this works really, really well. See how I added my little fabric swatches onto one of them? Because all of these papers are actually assembled just with those colors. And so I actually added fabric swatches to all of these so that when I put it into a bag and I never finish this quilt, I can actually give it to somebody else, and all they have to do is just look at the bag, see where all the fabrics go, and they sit down and they start sewing it together. So if you guys know a lot of, or if you guys have any quilt angels or piecing angels, you can just hand them a bag of these already prepared, and they'll just sit down and do the sewing, and they don't have to do any thinking other than just putting things together. It's easiest to do this before you actually cut your papers apart. The reason why is because if I had two color groups, I could have set up one color group here and another color group over here, and then when I cut them all out, then I can just count and see how many are supposed to be in each group, knowing that each one of those would go into another bag. All right, so I have actually prepared this sheet, and what I do, I need one more little thing on my, I need some pins. So if I work with a light table, I can only go through 4 layers of paper at a time, and because I can't see, the light just doesn't shine through more than 4 papers. All right, if I do it with just pins, I can actually pin about 12 layers of papers. So if I have a lot of papers, the best way to do this is with the pinning. So if I actually take my pins and I have my 12 layers here, I can find a corner, and it doesn't matter where the corner is, and I can put my pin down there, and then I can lift the paper and put the pin on the next corner, and then I can put the pin on another corner, and you just keep doing that. And what that does is that lines up all of these papers, and so I can do one pin here, I can do a pin over here, a pin here, a pin there. If I want, I can pin other places as well, but you're going to do the pinning around the outside, but it places all of these papers right on top of each other. The other thing that helps when we're doing this, and I'm going to pull the pin out, is when I'm if I have a light table, I actually will turn the light table on, and then I can match everything right up with this. And since I can do 4 sheets, and I don't have my light table in here, I just realized the smaller one. If I can see through 4 sheets, I can line them up right on the light table. The other thing I can do is I can take my glue pen and I can use the repositionable glue, but I can also just use Yoo-hoo glue, which I'm gonna do for this project right here. And I can place that glue and do my bottom sheet and just find and put a little bit of glue on those areas, and then I just let this one come down, and since I don't have my light table, I'm gonna just put a pin in there, make sure that's pinned, and then I just push that, and what I've done is I've stopped those papers from sliding. I can take my next one or my next layer and go like this, and then we're going to line this right up. So it works really good just using a pin as well, but now I've stopped all of that from sliding. Okay, now if you're using repositionable glue, that glue stays with it, and that's why I kind of like using the Yoo-hoo when I'm playing with the paper, because it dries and then it doesn't get sticky when it's running through the machine. After I get these glued, I take my stapler, and I've already stapled this one and this one, and so I'm going to staple these 3 now, and I'm just going to put one staple in there. Now the other thing that's kind of cool about this is with the staple, if I do 4 of these on my light table, I can actually take a group of 4, a group of 4, and a group of 4, and pin them together, and now I'm cutting through 12 layers. And I can cut a lot of papers out at one time. So I have all my staples in there. I have a pin over in this corner, and I'm going to move that pin out of that corner. Now I don't have to worry about anything moving on me, so I'm going to come in here first, and I'm going to use my leaf ruler, and I'm going to cut all of my curved lines. So I can just take this leaf ruler and come in here, and I want to set this up to where I'm leaving about 1/8 of an inch on each one of those. And I know some people think, oh, I don't need that ruler, but I'll tell you what, I use these curved rulers all the time because it's so much easier to control where my blade is going. And I'm not cutting right on the line because I don't need to cut on the line on the paper. But I will tell you, I see it happen over and over and over again with my students. They try to hurry up and get everything cut out before they come to class. And then when they get in class, they have all this excess fabric or paper that extends outside. And you can't do chain piecing when you have too much excess paper. And so we end up having to recut all those papers. So in my opinion, you cut one time, and then you never have to pick those papers up again and cut them again. So
someone asked, why don't you iron the wrinkles out of the paper?
You don't really have to. And the other thing about the wrinkles in the paper is they're all folded in the same spot. And so they basically just, those wrinkles land on top of each other because the papers were folded that way. I don't need the papers to lay flat because the first time I take it to the sewing machine and then to the iron, I just basically iron my paper. So at this point, there's really no reason to go through and spend an hour to 2 hours pressing papers, especially if you have 70, 80 papers in your patterns. It's a waste of time in my opinion. I know some people like to, and it's fine, but I see no purpose in it. Okay, so I've actually cut all of the curves now. And now when I take my straight ruler, I'm going to basically lay it right along the edge here. I'm going to leave about 1/8 of an inch. And then I'm going to cut this one. And then I'm going to cut this edge. And then I'm going to cut this edge. And then I'm just going to lay that over to the side like that. And then we're going to grab the next one.
One of the students said the center creases don't affect your cutting. I'd feel like I need to get those out first.
If you have to do that, then you can iron them. It's kind of like a lot of people prefer to do pre-washing. I'm not a pre-washing person. It doesn't mean that I'm right or wrong, but it's just the way I am. I work with new fabric all the time, and I just don't see any reason to take it to a wash machine and pay the labor to have it pre-washed. But on occasion, if we run into a piece that doesn't that runs, we have to deal with the fact that, yeah, maybe we should have pre-washed. So you can see how easy this is. I'm going to go ahead and finish it. I wasn't going to, but at this point I'm going to be done in 2 seconds, and it'll take me longer to fold it up than just to finish it. So
let's see, someone said, I'm a little late to the party. What's the name of the curved ruler? So that is called the leaf ruler. And so Quiltworx has a variety of rulers on our, if you go to our, let's see, Elise said my mic is muffled. Can you hear me now? Okay, anyway, we'll provide some links to the rulers on our website. If you have bought, let's see, the leaf ruler was in Coral Reef. So if you have the Coral Reef pattern, you already have the leaf ruler. If you have never bought the Coral Reef pattern before, then you can buy a leaf ruler on our website. And you can probably never have too many leaf rulers. I don't know, Mom, how many do you have? 4?
Yeah.
So anyway, if you end up with Coral Reef at some point in your life and you have 2 leaf rulers, then you just have 2.
It's not the end of the world.
Yeah.
They're not that expensive. They're not a real expensive ruler. Okay, so I have all of my papers here. And now I'm just going to take all my papers. These are all put in the same bag. And so I'm going to put a paper clip on it. And then we're going to fold them back up and put them in the bag.
Oh, Karen Frederick just tuned in. Hi, Karen. I hope you're having a good day.
So template layout sheets are a little bit different than your foundation papers. And this one, I really am going to stress. If you guys have template layout sheets, you need to cut them on the line. And I've had a lot of people make mistakes because they cut them outside the line and then they try to fit them onto their strips and they don't fit on their strips. So you can lose, easily a couple inches just trying to fit template layout sheets on. But if you cut them on the line, they're going to fit exactly the way the little pictures show you in your pattern. So I just go through and lay them out and cut them one time, and that way I don't have to come back and clean them up after the fact. You don't have to put any glue. If you have multiple template layout sheets that are the same, you can still stack them, because if you do trim them right on the line and you trim a little bit of that line off, it's really not going to make any difference, because the template layout sheets, it's the width of the fabric that you're working with, and the template layout sheets are always just a little bit smaller because we round up our cut sizes on the fabric to what we need, and the template layout sheets can end up at a 1/32 of an inch versus a 1/4 versus an 1/8, all different sizes. So I want you guys to get used to train yourself to cut them one time on that on the line, and you'll find that it really saves you hours of work and having to go back and clean things up after the fact. And it's a lot faster to do it with a rotary cutter than it is a pair of scissors. I know some people like to use the scissors, but I prefer the rotary cutter. The other thing I like about pre-cutting all of my templates is when I go through and start working with my fabric, I can clip the pre-cut templates right onto the pieces. So you want to get all of these pre-cut and put into a bag. And I'm going to wait on the rest of them. And I think I've lectured you long enough on cutting out templates. So we're going to set these aside and I'll finish those up later. All right, so let's move back to page 6. And I showed you what I did with my swatches. I lined up my swatches here. I have my swatches here. I have my swatches here. I have both of the color swatches over here. And I like to do this as I'm going through when I have a lot of different colors, is because I like to be able to look at this section and go, okay, this is going to use the swatches. This is my background section. So I like to put little swatches where I'm going to be cutting. And then I came over here and I basically ran those swatches along so that I'd remember, okay, I have to have each one of these. But I don't have to keep flipping back on through my pattern, because I basically have swatch pictures on every single page in this. Now it's kind of an overkill, but I am going to say that when you're new to this and you're trying to read through these things, it really helps you to understand what the end results are to what you're going to be doing with when you start cutting things out. So we're going to flip this, and I'm going to I didn't sort all of this in bags because I want you guys to watch me sort in bags. So I've done some pre-cutting, and some of it I haven't done pre-cutting on. So if we go to page 7, first of all, let's go through right at the beginning of this on page 6. It tells you need 4 different bags here, okay? And the 4 different bags is going to divide those color groups from each other. And that way when we do our chain piecing, we can actually just do one bag at a time. Because there's so many colors in here, if you try to strip piece all 36, you're going to get yourself mixed up as far as what the colors, where the colors go. So I have my black background pieces cut, and if you look at page 7, about halfway down in the first column, it tells you need 9 strips of fabric. And out of those strips, I believe there are 4 from the white fabric and 5 from the black fabric. So I cut my black fabric. So now when I count these, I was able to just stack all of the blacks, and I ended up with the 10 pieces in the black, because I have to have 20 pieces total of black, but I want it in 2 piles so that I can put each colorway with them. So we're going to set those aside for now. And then we're going to take you to this one, and I just want to show you how I set up my cutting. So I have my template there, and on this it tells me I need 4 of these. So if I only need 4, I'm going to get the first one here. I'm going to get the second one right here. Okay, so I'm just going to take and cut right now and give myself a little leeway, because I'm not too worried about the fabric. And then I'm going to take this and I'm going to stack the other 4 pieces underneath that. And what this will do is give me 8. Now, notice that I'm going to actually take these and flip them and put them down on this end, because I don't have to deal with going in and ironing my pieces. And now I can take this, and I can take this one. So you can use the repositionable glue and just put just a touch on there. Don't over glue with this stuff. Okay, so we're just putting a touch, and that just kind of lines everything up where I want it. And then the other thing I'm going to do, because if I put my paper clips on now, then everything's already clipped together. So I can take and put a paper clip on each one of these sections before I cut them apart, and that way I don't have to hold on to it. Once it's cut, it's ready to throw in the bag. So just find where all your sections are. Most of the time you can get a paper clip on every single section just by working around the unit. On occasion you'll have a piece in the middle that you won't be able to, that you'll have to come back and put another paper clip. And now we're going to flip this and get these last two pieces here. All right, now I'm just going to take my ruler here, and I do want to show you something. If I use my add a quarter ruler to do this cut, the height of these paper clips is the same height as that little lip on your add a quarter ruler. So now my ruler lays flat on here. And then we're going to take and cut in between these. And we're going to take and cut in between these. And now we're done with the white. So I have my two white pieces. Each one of these now have 8 pieces in them. And here's my two blacks, which each one of these have 2 pieces in them. 10. 8 and 10. And so I'm going to put one of these in the first bag, one of these in bag 2, because each one of these is a color group, and they take 10, and then the 8s go in bag 3 and bag 4. All right. So I have my foundation papers, they're clipped together. This group isn't, so let's put a paper clip on it. Now it is. And then we have a paper clip on that one, and we have a paper clip on this group. So I cut one of the color groups already. And so we're just going to go through the cutting on this color group. So you have lots of leftover templates in here. And I've already sorted all of these fabrics, so I have 3 in each group. But I'm going to have to make some more room here. And so I'm going to take this and set it here. Then we're going to take the next color group. And we're going to set it like this. We're going to take the next color group. Next color group. And here's my last color group. So we have our 5 pieces. And I'm just going to move them up to the top for a second. Right. And here's my layout sheets. So these patterns are designed, so if you use the layout sheet, you would be cutting all of these pieces would be cut from one color. But what we want to do, instead of having all of these purple or blue, we have the 5 colors in there. So in order to do that, we have to cut apart the layout sheets. So I stapled my layout sheets together before I cut them out. Like what I was showing you, I just put those layers underneath all together. And then before I cut them, I went through, since I put my little fabric swatches on here, I went through and it says section 2 template. So I found the section 2 template and I put my little fabric color right there. The section 4 is my darker pink. The section 6 is my blue. Section 8 is the teal, and the section 10 is the cyan. So now all I have to do is just cut these apart. And so we're going to find cut line 1. And cut line 1, that piece goes there. And cut line 2, do it. Those are going to go with the blue, and this one's going to go with my pink. Oops. Lost a template there. The pink one goes there, and the green one goes here. So now I believe, if I read my instructions, that I need 18 pieces of each colorway. Okay, so I'm going to look at these pictures in my book. So it tells you how to lay those out. And if you look, we have plenty of leftover fabric off to the end, so we don't have to worry about getting them really close together when we cut them out. I already cut the first group here, so I'm just going to cut the second. But you can actually cut both groups at the same time if you want to. And that's the way the pattern tells you. And then you would divide them up into the two color groups, all right? So let's go ahead, and we're going to take our very first piece. And I have to have, there's 3 here, and so I need 6 templates. So we're going to take our first template, and I'm going to use the repositionable glue on these. Just put a little bit there. And then I'm going to put the next one here. So that gives me 6, and 3 more is 9. And if I need 18, then why don't we just take this, and we're going to cut right along that. We're going to take our next 3 pieces here. Pull this paper off there. Lay this on here. So you can tell that the accuracy, that every single one of those templates is exactly the same size, isn't really important. So this is my leftover piece. I'm just going to set it there. Now I need to have 18 of these total, and since I'm doing 10 in one bag and I'm doing 8 in the other, then I want to have 8 pieces under one of these. So I should have 9 under this. So that's 3. Actually, there's 6 there. And this would be, if I grab 4 of these pieces, then that gives me 10. And I'm going to put a paper clip on there. And I'm going to set that with my group of papers that are 10. And so there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So this group of paper is going to be 10. And that's going to go with that group of right there. Okay. And then this one, I have 6, 7, 8 now. And I like to just come in here just in case I drop it or something, and I write the number of what's in each one of these stacks right on the template. All right. And now we're going to do that again. And if all your strips don't come out like perfectly straight in your cutting process, don't worry about it, because it's going to be fine. So we're going to take this one, and I'm going to put a little bit of glue here. And then we're going to put glue here, and this is going to be flipped over like that. And then we're going to take this one, and we're going to put this one on there like that. And so again, I need 18, so why not just take this and set my stack up. Flip these over, I am going to show you, so if I want to keep a bigger piece here, I can take my acorn starch pen and see where this is, where it's been folded. I can actually take the starch pen and just run that right on that fold. And now all that lays down for me. Now I can actually take this, put it on this end, and it's leaving me a bigger chunk there if I have to come back in and cut something else out of it. So now we're going to cut this one, and then we're going to cut in between the lines on this one. And we need a set of 10 and a set of...
We got another question.
Okay.
Says, don't some need to be cut with fabric face down so when it's flipped for piecing it's the right way?
No, not with the templates. The only time you do your fabric face down is if it tells you to do them face down in your pattern. And these are all designed so the template is on the right side of the fabric. If you cut them the other way, they'll all be backwards.
Right. So we design, if there is a right in this pattern, there's also no right and left blocks. They all overlap, and so they all go in the same direction. But if we do have patterns with right and left, we most of the time give you the right template and the left template now, so everything is cut on the right side of the fabric. Oh, she says you still can't hear me. Hold on, sorry, I guess I gotta hold this a little bit closer to my mouth today. So I was just saying that even if we have a right and a left block, you have to, or we give you right templates and left templates for your cutting so that you don't have to cut them wrong sides together. We do have some instructions where you cut on the wrong side of the fabric for a specific reason, but we do tell you specifically to do that in your instructions.
And these are definitely designed for cutting on the right side of the fabric. All right, so I'm not going to make you guys watch me cut the rest of these. We're going to go ahead and move forward because I have some of these cut out already. And I'll just come back and finish these up. Okay. So this one's going to go with these two bags. And I have these bags set up. So this is a white, and this is a number 10. I think this is the one that I'm gonna work with right here. Okay. So this group is gonna go into a bag with the white, and then this group here is going to go with this group, and we will finish cutting these later. All right, and these can go with that. So we're going to do some paper piecing for you. And actually, I'm going to work with the white. And I'm not going to do 8 of these. I'm going to set this up to where I'm only doing 4. Just because doing 8 in a video will be here until midnight if I tried to do that on all of them. So we're going to go cut line 1, so we're cutting our template layout sheets apart, and that's why I put the paper clips on there. This is cut line 2, and that is for section 11, and this one is section 1. This is cut line 3. This one is cut line 4. Okay, and the templates on this is 7, and this one is 9. This one is 5, and 3, and 1. So what I'm saying here is this is section 11, which is the last piece. This is section 9, section 7, 5, 3, and 1. So now I have my pieces here. So this one says section 2, so that's going to fit in between there. This one is section 4. This one is section 6. This one is section 8. And this one is section 9. All right, so that at this point, I like to look and see, did I get everything in the right order? And if I didn't, and I already have it cut, I'm just going to flip my order on my paper and change it. I'm not going to like redo the whole thing unless it was something that really made a difference as far as the end results, right? So I'm going to take, and we're going to do 4. So I'm just going to reach under here and we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. And I'm going to put them on top. And then we're going to pull 4 off of this paper clip. And we put them on top. And then 4. This one, 1, 2, 3, 4. And that's probably all I'm going to make you guys watch, so I'm not going to pull the others off. Right. So to stack these, you're going to go sew side, sew side. So you want all of the sew sides stacked. Sew side, 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 and sew side. The reason I stack these is because if I leave them like this, I have a tendency to pull them from the wrong group. I'll just pick something up and I want to do 2 or 3 of them, and I pick them up out of the wrong group. So if I pre-count what I want to do and put them all in my stack, once I get these 4 on, then I can move the rest of the templates out of the way. So it's just kind of gives you, because when we do classes, normally you don't have enough time to sit down and chain 8 or 10 or 20 pieces. So you can get started on them by doing some pre-counting and saying, I'm going to do 4 pieces during my class time. So I'm going to just go here and we're going to go I'm going to take the 4 bottom ones. 2, 3, and 4. I think I got 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And I'm gonna leave these, they still have my numbers or my colors on them. I do want to mention that if I actually glue all of these on, once I start cutting or sewing, I pull that off because now I have it attached, and I don't want to sew the little fabric swatches in the seam allowance. So I pull them off before I actually start sewing with them. So we're going to do 4. All of these are made the same exact way, so it doesn't matter in which order I pick up my papers. If I was doing both stacks at the same time, I would number my papers 1 through 8 and then 9 through 20, because I'd be doing 10 of one group and 8 of the other group. And then it's really easy to go 1 through 8 goes in a pile, and 1 through 10 are the bottom part of my stack.
So there's a question here. Someone said, do the dots and stripes mix in each section? So I was the one who colored this, so I'm going to answer that because they do, but what I did is I alternated them. So, I mean, you can't really see up close on the quilt, but maybe you can point like the red.
Okay, so my green is a stripe.
Then the light green's a dot.
And then I have a stripe.
The yellow is the stripe.
And because we're doing all of our cutting at one time, all of these stripes are going across the pieces the way it's set up. So we basically have them set up for fussy cutting. So we don't have some of the stripes going up and down through the piece. They're all going across it.
Right, and they all go across in the same exact, because of the way the strips are cut and the way it's laid out on the fabric, it does all look like the stripes kind of rotate around the block.
Yeah, they go like this.
So, but I made a special effort to alternate dot and stripe around the whole quilt. So,
okay, well, you can thank Judelle for that one.
So anyway, if you're wondering, but that's a good question because that was something that I did intentionally and probably most people don't notice. So thanks for noticing.
All right, so the very first piece when you're doing foundation paper piecing needs to be put on, you flip it wrong side up. All of the others are added right side up, okay? But section 1 is always wrong side up because section 1 is glued to the back side of the paper. So I'm just going to take this, and I like using the repositionable glue on the very first piece because the fabric comes off easier. Some people don't like it. You guys have to try it, and if you don't like it, then don't use it because it will gum up your machine, your pressure foot, and you have to continue to clean that repositionable down off of your machine because if you don't, pretty soon your machine, the feed dogs won't push it through because there's so much glue on the surface. Okay, so we're going to put that one on, and I'm just going to stack that one right on top of the other one. So all I'm doing is just playing a stacking game. Once I get the first piece on, I don't have to worry about where the rest of them go because I can just keep the stack all the same. I'm going to put that one along that edge there. And then we're going to take that one. Now you can use the Yoo-Hoo stick for this instead of the repositionable glue. I gotta find my, I lost my lid. Oh, there it is. You guys can yell and tell me where my stuff is because you can see. I'm up here looking all over for it. All right. So we have the first piece done on, and now we're going to take our fold template. And we're going to place this right on the solid line that's marked line 1. We fold back the foundation paper. We put the add a quarter. We trim.
There's a question. What is the name of the repositionable glue?
The one I am using today is Scotch. I think most of the ones we have are the Scotch.
Yeah, we normally order 2 or 3
the brands, Scotch. Though.
Yeah, there are other ones.
Yeah.
The key is just to, when you put it on, just let whatever glue you're using, they're all a little bit different. Just make sure that it's not super wet or really sticky on the back. But yeah, we use the Scotch mostly because Cindy has an in with someone there to try and get us glue as quickly as possible because it always seems to be something that they're out of.
Yeah, isn't that the truth? When the quilters started using repositionable glue, it became a rarity item. So, all right, we're gonna just keep doing our fold back trim, fold back trim, fold back and trim. So I did not mark the back side of my papers. In all of our instructions, it tells you to mark the dash lines on the back side. The purpose for that is if you're brand new to paper piecing, you don't know where you're going to be setting things here. And so marking those dashed lines really helps a beginner to figure out where those pieces are positioned, right? So there's other ways you can come up with that, and I'm going to show you a couple other ones. But if you actually went through and marked everything, then you would be able to see where all of the pieces fit on the back of your paper. So if you use a Sharpie, you can actually go through and mark all the dashed lines on the front, and then you'll see them on the back. It's probably one of the most common ways that my teachers use. It's not my favorite way. I don't like the Sharpie pens. So what I like to do is, if I need to find that next piece, I actually take this and I fold on the dash line for the next section. So this is my section 2, so I fold it on the outside on those dashed lines. Now when I fold it back, I can see where my creases are. So I'm just going to mark that crease so you can see. So now I know where my section is. If I have what do you call this? It's a yellow pen.
A highlighter.
It's a highlight pencil. And I can actually color that in. And this works really good when I'm training somebody, a new person, because now when I tell them the next piece goes underneath that, they can see and understand exactly what I've done there, okay? So we are now going to put that piece on. So we're going to lay that over there. So we're going to start putting the second piece in position. So this is my sew side. And so you want your sew side, and I like to take my template and lay the template in front of me. So if I accidentally pick this up, I can remember there's my sew side. So my sew side is my long piece, okay? You can see that my template or my fabric is bigger than my template because the template was actually that size, and I didn't see any reason to go back and recut those. All I needed to do is just get the general shape. So I have my sew side, and now what I'm going to do is lift this up, and I'm going to match my trimmed 1/4 inch seam allowance up with the sew side, and I'm going to make sure that I have green fabric underneath where I colored in with the highlighter. All right. Once I do that one time, I can take the next piece and I can line it up just like this. And then all I have to do is look to see where I lined it up on the first one and put it in the same position. So, and I'm staggering these as I go. And then we take the next piece and we're going to put that. So I don't have to mark the rest of them. I really am only found that location on the very first piece that I'm working with. And now I have all of these stacked. I could pick these up and just run them through the machine with no problem, okay? But when I'm working with a new student and trying to teach them how to do paper piecing, by the time they pick this up and move it to the machine, their fabric is already moved on them, and now they're trying to remember how they had it set up. And so what I like to do is just take this and teach them that if they'll take and run their, oops, that is dry. So let's grab another one.
Shared a comment. She said, tell your mom an old tooth sewing rotary marker works well to make those lines. And yeah, we actually have
a what?
Those toothed rotary markers that you roll along. We have some out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have some of those out there too, and or we sell some of those in our notions section out here in the.
Yeah. So I just have a new glue, just put new glue in there. So now I'm going to fold back the fabric and I'm going to glue that on. If my dark fabric is on the bottom, I don't have to worry about any shadowing, because with paper piecing, the bottom piece is the direction you're going to press into that bottom piece. If my light fabric is on the bottom, then I have to worry about whether or not it's going to leave a shadow. So for this round, I don't have to worry about that. All I'm going to do is just glue all of those together. Then we'll pull our glue pen up. Now when I pick it up, I don't have to worry about the student losing that, and it's all glued together. And once you get used to gluing, it goes really fast. And it almost is faster to glue those pieces than to just pick them up and put them through. The disadvantage of the glue is you will go through glue quite a bit faster. And it's not the cheapest glue in the world, but we love it. We use a lot of it. So now I'm going to take my pieces and I'm going to set this up. I can actually, are you over on my camera?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm on the machine. Do you want me there?
Yeah, put me at the machine. Are we there?
Yeah.
Okay. So I can actually come in here and I can sew from this point up, because this is a little piece, and so it's going to fit underneath the throat on my machine right here. If I'm working with a great big piece, I can put the paper out this way and I can sew from the top down. It really doesn't matter, but what I like to do is figure out how am I going to set it up and start sewing, and then I turn my pile to the way I'm going to pick it up, so that all I have to do is open the paper in the right direction. We're going to downsize our stitch length on this. Every machine's different. I hear people comment all the time, well, I use this size, I use this size. I have about 6 different types of machines. They're all Bernina, and every one of them uses a different stitch length. I have one that I have to use a 2.5 on. It's one of my older models, a 1260. And on these little classroom machines, I usually sew between a 2 and a 1.9. If I'm using a 475, I'm down there a little bit lower. I probably am more like 1.7 to 1.8. So you need to test it and figure it out for yourself, which way you're going to, which stitch length you like, and what your machine's going to sew. So once I get that stitch length adjusted, then all I have to do is just start sewing. And then we're going to pick the next piece up. I have some machines that have a thread cutter, and you can actually cut that. My issue with thread cutters is you have to clean them a lot more. And so if I'm just doing small papers, I don't use the thread cutter. I just continue to chain, and I just lift it up, move it back there just a little bit, and then I start the next piece. If I'm working with a large piece of paper, it's easier to use a thread cutter. So I'm a little conservative with my thread cutter. The other thing is I have my needle stopping in the down position right now, and I really need to set it up in the up position, because I want my needle to stop up, because then I can pull my thread. If it's in the down position, a lot of times some of the machines will break because it thinks it's down, and so it's not going to let you pull that thread through the tension. And then we're going to sew our last piece. And then when we're done, we just take a rotary cutter or a pair of scissors and we cut the threads in between. And then we go to our iron and we're going to press that open. Okay. Now, if I have a unit that has really tiny spikes on it, I can actually take this starch pen and I can actually run this on the back just like that, and then take this and I can do a finger press. So that's one way I can set it up. I can also take this and do a finger press first and run it along this part. All right. This is Tula fabric that I'm working with, so it doesn't crease as nicely as like your batiks, but it's a thicker fabric, and so I'll probably use this most of the way through just because I want to get a really crisp fold with that. So now I'm going to take it to my iron, and we're not going to move my machine for the iron because you guys can, I'll just bring them back to you. Okay, so I have my 4 pieces here, and I have a really nice crispy line. So now we're going to take these and we're going to flip them over, and we're going to find line 2, and I'm going to place my fold template on line 2. So we design what we call floating points into all of our patterns. So a floating point means that your points do not come to the seam allowance. Every one of these is set back about 1/4 of an inch. When you look at these, some of them are back 1/2 inch, some are back 1 inch, and so I can create various lengths in my pieces when I'm working with floating points. So when you have a floating point, you're going to come in here. We sewed all the way down this line, but in order for me to fold it back, I have to tear and make that stitch. And so in my instructions, I always tell you, put the fold template on it, fold it back, tear back on the line that you'd be folding on, and so I'm tearing back on line 1, and that releases it and allows me to actually that lays flat, and now I can actually go through and I can trim. And we're going to set there. Then we're going to take the next one. We're going to take and tear that back right there so that it lays flat. Trim. Stack it. Fold this.
Someone asked about your antique iron.
My antique iron? My antique iron's very cool.
And do you know what brand it is?
I do not. I mean, we do. We could write it down and give you guys, we can post it out there what it is. But you can find them out online. Doug and I went out and we found some out online. But you want to remember one thing about your a lot of the antique irons or just old irons, even new irons. Sometimes those heat sensors in them, when you turn it on, even if it's on wool or if it's on cotton, it's just going to go to the highest setting. So you want to make sure that if you're using them, that it doesn't get too hot for your wool or too hot for your fabric, because sometimes I burnt through fabric on this one with this iron before.
That was on a wool mat. It gets
really hot. Yeah.
It was on a wool. It was on a wool mat. So if you use them,
so be a little careful, because I have burnt right through my fabric, and I had to go in there and redo 4 blocks because it happened right on a corner. And it's just, you know, there, you got to watch out for the temperature to make sure the temperature doesn't get too hot. All right, now we're going to take the next piece. There's my sew side. So this piece is going to land right along the curve. And so I'm going to fold this one back again so you guys can see how I find it. So I want to add section 3 right here. And so I'm going to fold on the dashed line along the line 3. And then I'm also going to fold the dashed line on line 4 because it turns on me. And then when I fold it back, I'm going to just mark those lines where I creased it. And now I can see. And I'll go ahead and use the highlighter because it shows up a little bit better in the video. So the top of my paper is actually what I want to look at. When I put this piece on, I want to make sure I have fabric past the top of the paper. I'm going to have plenty down here, so I'm just going to put my finger on here. And when I lay that on there, I'm going to leave about 1/4 of an inch. The dog wants out, so Geodes going to let the dog out. She's done with it, so she's going to beg me because Geodes won't let her out. All right, so then we're going to take the next piece. And we're going to take the next one. So you're going to notice that I'm actually stacking a little bit different this time. It really doesn't matter whether you stack right on top or you stack here and then place it here. It's just whatever you get in the habit of doing. And you'll find that you'll do it one way when you're picking up a certain piece versus the other way, and it's just because of the size of the piece or what you're looking at on your paper to see where to set it up. Now, for this group, my white is on the bottom. So what I want to do is set it up to where I can see a sliver of that fabric on the bottom on the outside, because if I let the green fabric overlap it, then when I do my pressing, I'm going to have a little shadow there from my green fabric. So whenever I have the light fabric on the bottom, you want to be able to see a sliver of that light. So this is a time when glue really comes in handy because you know that it's not going to move for you. And I have each one of these set up now. And so we're going to grab our glue pen. And I'm just going to put a little glue on each one of these. Now, I like gluing this way, but I do know that when you get older, sometimes you lose the feeling in your fingers. And so I'm going to show you another way that works. So if I actually take my piece here, I can actually take and run my glue right along that edge and then just pick my piece up and place it. That seems to work better for women that are starting to lose a little bit of feeling in their fingers. So either way works as long as it's glued together and you know it's not going to move on you. So we're going to take and put that piece over here, and then we're going to go to our machine again and we're going to sew on line 2. I'm going to show you one more thing. So on this one, here's where I want to start sewing.
Hold on.
Okay. So this is line 2, and I want to start sewing about a 1/16 of an inch, maybe even an 1/8 of an inch before that solid line starts, okay? If I start my sewing before the dashed line, then when I fold back to do the trimming, it cuts all my threads off. If I start my sewing within the seam allowance, I have to trim every one of those threads. And so just start on the outside so that you're sewing over the dash line, and then you'll come back up. We're going to sew on line 2, which is the solid line. That's my sew line. And I'm going to start just a little bit before so that when I fold back to trim, it'll cut all my threads. And then we're going to pick the next piece up, and I'm just going to lift this up and slide it off to the side and start again. Take this one. And then we're going to find, I'm going to use my scissors this time. All right, so we have everything, and we're going to fold this back. And we're going to grab our little starch pin, and I'm going to put the starch on this side and do my paper or my finger pressing. If you don't have fingernails and you can't do finger pressing like that, you can actually get the little tools. They have some little wood tools that work really well for that. Okay, so if I'm demonstrating one piece, I'll actually do finger pressing on all of them. But if I'm doing 10 or 20 or 30 pieces, I'm going to go to the iron in between, because I'm going to get a lot nicer finished product if I press all of those seams. So let me press really quick. Something else I want to bring to your attention about pressing is when you're doing traditional piecing, you actually would press a seam. You would take the next piece, set it on top, and press the seam. The next one, set it on top, press the seam, and do it that way. When you're doing paper piecing, you actually want to press it, set it to the side, press the next one, set it to the side, press the next one. Don't stack them on top of each other, because you have all these printed lines underneath here, and the ink, when you put that heat to it, it can put that ink onto your fabrics, and all of a sudden you'll see a big B2 on your white fabric. So make sure you don't press on top of each other when you're doing paper piecing. All right, so we're going to do one more piece that we're going to add on here. So on this one, on the last one, I had to just tear back from the top. On this one, I have to do my tear back down here. So to do that, I have to pull the fabric over, and then I'm going to grab this and tear it back like that. And now I can actually trim. My threads, I just pulled the thread right out of the paper. So when I put the add a quarter on, it's going to cut my thread. And I'm pretty sure you guys have all done paper piecing where you have a million threads on that side of your fabric, and you go, it just gets caught on the threads into the seam. This way you have a nice clean back and no threads stopping you from, just take that. And if the thread didn't come out, you can pull it out after it's cut, and it comes right out. Take the next one, fold it back, grab the tip of my fabric, flip it over like that. And if it tears a big hole in there, don't worry about it. It's fine, because it actually, if it tears big holes where those lines are, it makes it a little easier to remove the paper in the end. I see questions all the time on our support network about when to pull the paper off. You're going to remove the paper before you start sewing your units together. That is, try to assemble in quilt with all in them, because you probably took the paper from like 2 or 3 per unit to basically an hour. It's very difficult to remove the paper after it's all been sewn in, because you have several layers of paper, several layers of seams, and you can't get in underneath those seams to remove the paper. So you need to remove the paper before you put your assemble your quilts. I always say leave the paper on, but then at the very end of the pattern, if you actually read, it does tell you that you're supposed to remove the paper before you start to assemble. All right. And a lot of people say when they read my instructions, well, you say leave it on, but you never tell us to take it off. Well, that's because by the time you've gotten to the end, you're tired of reading directions, and so you miss that part. But it is in the back of our patterns.
We're having some streaming issues, so if you're seeing it get a little glitchy, but it looks like Facebook is trying to clear it up. So sorry for that, but it was running so nice, and then it got all glitchy there for a second. So, oh, we might be stabilizing out here.
Is it working?
I think we're good again. We had about 30 seconds. So, all right. I think we're good. So,
all right. Well, in that 30 seconds, I actually went through and stacked the rest of my fabric for you. So we have the next piece on, and I'm going to glue it. And then I'm going to show you how I pin everything together at this point and put it away, because sometimes you just don't have time to finish it. We have other things in our life that we have to do besides sit and sew papers all day. So if you're halfway through, just take these, glue them on, glue that piece on, since I already glued it on, and then I'm looking and I'm going, oh, we need to stop. Then I can take these and I can actually pin all of these on here like this, get them stacked, and I'm actually going to go like that, and I should actually go like this, because those are ready to sew. And then this one, I'm going to take these and put these back in order with my papers on them. And then I can take a great big paper clip like this and basically clip them all together and slip them. I didn't do a real good job clipping them, I can see. I missed a couple pieces. We'll slip it in there. And it's ready for me to pick up and finish these pieces. Now this is where your quilt fairies come in really nice, because they can actually come in here and you can hand them a bag and they can give it back to you and it's all done. All right, so we're going to move to the next group now, and I'm going to go through how that one is set up. So let's see, what did I do with it? So this group and this group and this group all go together. And here's my next group. All right, so this is actually group B1, and I have the pieces for the spikes. So this is what we're going to do, and I'm going to demo this piece out here. And so we're going to go through this.
The spike section is identical to what you guys do for the unit she just demoed. So
yeah. So this piece here, and then these are my spikes here. Okay, so let's just take a quick look at the spikes. So on these pieces, all of these have black backgrounds, so I don't have to keep track of the black backgrounds. And then the other thing about these is they're actually sewing, so if you look, all three colors are the same. All three colors are the same. So I am going to go through that part of it with you on how you set it up. So I have all 8 fabrics sitting here. I have my template on there. And what we're going to do is we're going to cut in between each one of our pieces. If I just cut along the top of each one of those templates, I have plenty of fabric for this. Okay. Didn't want to go through that one. There we go. So this is one of those techniques where you have to number your papers. Otherwise, you'll never get all of the pieces in the same order. Okay, and we're making 2 of every color group, right? So we're going to take these, and I need to cut 8 of these pieces. So before I start, I'm actually just going to come in here and I'm going to cut all the selvage off, and then I'm going to cut it on the fold. This just makes my cutting adventures a lot faster. Now I'm going to take these and I'm going to stack them all right side up. And then we're going to take our template layout sheets. Now I have all 8 layers underneath here. And let's go ahead and do our paper clips. So I have 4 template pieces of each one.
Just make sure before you do that trick that you know for sure that all your pieces are going to fit on it.
Yes, that is true.
Otherwise, if you need that little section in the center to get all of your pieces on there, which sometimes you do, then now you don't have enough fabric.
Yeah. You have to make sure that you have enough fabric when you start making shortcuts, all right? So we're going to cut here. We're going to cut in between here. All right, so we're just going to cut one of these right now. There's cut line 1, cut line 2. I like my add a quarter ruler better. It lays down there. And cut line 3. All right. Now I have enough here, so there's 1, 2, 3, because each one has 3 spikes, and so these I'm going to come over here and just clip these all to this stack. All right. And we're just going to show you how to set these up. So fabric number, or section 7, is my largest section on my foundation paper. Where's my paper? Must be in my bag. Yep. 1, 2, 3, and 4. So I have all of the papers there. I should have 2 sets. I think I set these up as 2. Yeah, I did. All right, so we're going to pull one group off of each one. That one's stapled together. I had that set up to where I was going to do all 10 of them, or actually there's 16, I think. All right, so we'll leave this stack for that pile. So I should have 8. And then what we're going to do is we're going to look at we have our pieces all stacked, and we're going to look at this, and we're going to start at the very bottom and see how I put little swatches on everything. So I'm going to make sure that that paper's on the bottom, and then the next one is going to go like this. The next one is my blue. The next one is my green. Actually, that's a teal. And then we have the red. We have the peachy color. And then we have a yellow. And then we have a green. Okay. So now I'm going to take these, and I numbered them 1 through 16, so I'm going to renumber them 1 through 8. Having just the swatch on it is too easy to, because you don't remember the order, and so you constantly have to put it back in order after you press. But if you put a number on them, then it's easy to just go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, because you remember that we know how to count, but we don't know how to always go pink, purple, blue, teal, orange, or you know, you get lost in the colors that you're working with. All right, so let's take, and we're going to find section 7, which is here, and then we're going to put a stack in there, because this stack is in the same order as this now. And then we're going to find section 5, put my sew side there, and then we're going to put another stack. And then we're going to find section 3, which goes here, and then we're going to put another stack. So as long as I always have my papers numbered 1 through 8, then I'm always going to pick all of these up at the same order. So this one is going to be number 1, right? And I like to put my numbers on the back of it too. And I can see I numbered this like 5 times. So that's my number 1. And I'm going to use a better marker. And then this one's going to be number 2. This one is 3. This one is 4. This is 5. This is 6. This is 7. And this is number 8. Okay. And the reason I like those on the back is because that's the part I see all the time in my stacking process. So now we're going to take our very first piece, and we're going to do all of these. Even when I am working with getting everything ready in a stack, even if I'm only planning to do a few of them, I like to go through and get the very first piece put onto all of the papers. So if I had 32 papers, I would actually sit there and stack all 32 with the first section, because the first section is always your hardest section, and it's the one where we have a tendency to make the most mistakes. Oops, I don't quite have that covered. So what this is going to do is it's going to put my number 8 fabric on the top. Okay. So now I'm just going to flip these around like this, and we're going to take our fold template. We're going to fold that. And we're going to trim. So that's number 8. And then we're going to do 7. And then we're going to do 6. And this is 5. This one's number 4. This is number 3. This is number 2. And this is number 1. So the first time I learned that numbering your papers was made it very easy is I was actually teaching at a store called Stitch in Heaven, and Linda and I were sewing. No, it was Stitch in Heaven. Linda Crouch. Oh, not Stitch in Heaven, you're right. It was Tennessee Quilts. So Linda's, and so we're grabbing pieces from each other, and I'm constantly sewing them onto the wrong piece. And finally she grabbed them from me. She goes, "Here, just number them, and then you won't make that mistake." And I'm like, "Why?" And anyway, all of a sudden it dawned on me, number your papers because it keeps everything in order. And that was the end of all of our mistakes. And we could work through it as a group. So I have green is going with my green. And then we have yellow is going with my yellow. So I can just double check. Orange is or peach is gonna go with peach. My reddish orange is going with my reddish orange. My teal should be number 5, and it is. Blue. Pink. Actually, that's my purple. And there's my pink. And I'm all ready to start sewing. Okay? So I'm actually just going to clip these together because you guys know the sewing process on this. So I'm just going to clip them together. If I can find another paper clip. Well, maybe I won't. I'll just go like this. And I'm going to put them in the bag because I can straighten it out later. I think I know what I'm doing. And we're going to take these, put these back in the bag. And now what I want to do is show you guys how to do this one, because this one throws people. This one's a little bit harder to figure out where everything goes. So let's take our pieces, and we have to make 16. So I have a layer of, there's 4 there. So if I actually take this and find my center, so this is called cheating again, and I'm just going to cut right on the fold. This probably, you could call it a little bit of wasting fabric too. So Then we're going to take and put this stack on top of it. And so I'm going to set this one aside and we'll work with this one. So let's go ahead and do the same with this group here. So I actually have two templates. So we're going to take both templates and they fit on there like that. I'm going to slice it here. And then I can take this, flip it over like this. I'm going to grab some paper clips.
We're having some more interference on Facebook, so
for those of you that have a second.
All right, I'm quite for it. Come on, come on. All right, I think, Mom,
that we're back.
Yeah, I think you're good again. Okay.
Okay. So I have 8 under this layout sheet. I have 8 under this layout sheet. I'm going to put a couple more paper clips. So when I cut, they're all clipped together. I think that I need to straighten this up just a little bit. My stack isn't like really perfect here. There we go. Right, so let's move these and we're going to cut on cut line 1. And then we're going to move to cut line 2. So that's my section 9.
When she gets done with all of the cutting today, we're going to show you a new tip that we learned.
And then cut line 1. So on these, this is 3, this is section 1, that's section 3, that's section 7, and this is section 5. I kind of like to keep those in order as I go because it saves me a lot of time resorting. These all have the same template name on them, so it doesn't matter which section they go to. So we just have to put one in between each one of the background templates. So anytime you don't see a section number written on a template, it's because it goes, this template is the same size all the way through. All right. So now we're going to, we have section 9, and that would be 8. This is going to be 7. This is 6. This one is 5. This is 4. would be 3, this is 2, and this is my number 1. So we're going to take our very first section piece, and so this one starts and your lines go all the way, but it's a curved section, it's a curved piece, and so it's a little harder to see how the pieces go together. So what I want to do is make one unit for you. So I'm going to pull the bottom piece off of each one of my templates as we go. And so when I lay that back over, I want to be able to see, if you look at your template right here, we actually tell you how to position that. And so if I took this, it's a mirror image. So this and this should be a mirror image. So all I have to do is just take that. So that tells me how to place that on there. So if I take my piece and match it back up here, that's the way that's supposed to go. Okay, so let's put a little bit of glue underneath there to hold that in place. And then I'm going to take my fold template, I'm going to place it on line 1, fold it back, and we're going to trim. So if you haven't done paper piecing with a curved unit, it really doesn't hurt to do one piece first, just to get a feel for how you're supposed to position everything. Now this piece, I'm going to put it just like that. That's my sew side. I don't want to get my sew sides mixed up, because if I do, these big pieces are not going to cover what I need them to cover. This one has a little bit of a wrinkle in it, so I'm just going to take my starch pen and get that wrinkle to lay flat there. And then I'm going to find that section, and I can see through the paper. The lines on this one are pretty dark, and so I can see where my section is. Okay, so I have to have fabric underneath that section right there. Okay, so I'm just going to pick this up, and when I lay it on there, I'm going to double check and make sure I have fabric underneath this point and along that edge, and I do. So we're going to quickly just take this to our machine, and I'm going to sew it. And then we're going to crease that, and I'm going to grab my starch pen, just put a little bit of starch right there, flatten that down, and then we're going to flip it over, and I'm going to place the fold template. So basically I'm going to start my sewing off the paper, and I'm going to sew off. I'm going to start here and sew off the paper on this side. All right, so let's fold it back before we cut. That is an easy mistake. I'm going to go back over there. So you saw me put this on, and then I put my add a quarter. Well, when you're doing like one piece at a time, it's very common for people to cut that, because they're not going through that fold back trim process, and so they have a tendency to put the add a quarter on too soon. It's safer to do a fold back trim on all your pieces than it is to do one at a time. Right, so now this piece I need to put, I'm going to crease that line right there, and then I'm going to mark it. So if you're a beginner, just mark these, put them on a light table, and trace the backside line. I'm going to take one piece off of here. I like to pull them off the bottom when I have the paper clips on it. My sew side is that edge, and that's going to put the curved edge of the paper along this long side. And if you look at the template, you'll see how it's positioned on that template as well. So now I just have to make sure that I have fabric on that side of the line and that I have fabric past the curved edge, which I do. And now we're going to press it. We'll put this one back in our stack. And now we're going to find line 3. And we're going to fold that back and tear the paper, just that fabric back there. And now I'm going to take this and place it on line 4, and I'm going to crease that. And I'm going to mark that line as well. So the advantage of having all of those sections marked is you're going to be able to see how it's going to sit on there. So now I can actually look at this and see that this side here is going to be along with the curve. So pull this off. My sew side is that edge. Whoops, I need to fold back and do my trimming before. And now I want to place this edge, and I'm going to put my finger right at that point and this point, and I'm going to center that onto the fabric underneath. So I don't want to line my fabric up here because that'll put this off of the edge. So I'm looking at the paper right here, and we're going to place that. And then we're going to double check. I need to have fabric past where I marked that line, and I do. And I have to have fabric past the inside of that curve, and I do. So we're going to sew. So when you're working with straight spikes, it's a lot easier to see where your fabrics are supposed to land than it is when you're working with a curved unit. You have to become familiar where your boundaries are on your curved units. So I'm going to show you something else now that will actually helps when you're working with a curve. So I'm going to fold this back to start with, and I'm going to get the trimming done. We're going to fold it back and trim, do a 1/4 inch seam allowance, okay? And then I can actually take this and clean this off, because it really does help to get all of that excess off of a curve when you're working with a curved unit, because now you don't have it sticking out way down here. So let's fold this back again, and we're going to grab this one. And this is my sew side, so when I look at the template, it's going to fit on under there just like that. So let's grab our first piece off the bottom, and I'm going to place that just like that. And I have fabric past the top here, and I do have my fabric. If I fold back there, if I had to mark the lines, I can see that both of them. I'm going to move it this way just a little bit to give myself a little bit more room on this side. So we'll place it on line 5, fold it back. So see, I tore the whole piece there. It's okay. It really is okay. I'm not going to worry about it. I'm just going to lay it on here. and I'm going to trim it. All that's going to do is leave a little hole there in my paper, and it's not going to hurt it. So there's my section 6. So if I fold back on that dashed line, then I can mark where section 6 falls in. So section 6 has another really long point to it, which it's going to fit on there. There's my sew side, so I can see how that's going to fit by looking at my template. And then we're going to take that, and I have plenty of room, so let's sew it. Flip it over, we're on line 6, fold it back, we're going to tear, and again it tore the paper because it was so close to the edge, but I'm going to trim it anyway. I'm not going to worry about it. I don't have to go in there and tape all my paper back together. So here's the edge of that section 7, so let's go ahead and fold that, crease it, and bring it back. So there's my piece again from right there, and if I look at my template, it's telling me the same thing. So my sew side's here. This dashed line right here actually fits right along that line there. Take that, and we're going to line that up. So I need to be about 1/4 of an inch past where that line is, and then when I look here, I fold back on that curve, I have fabric there. So what happens if you're not paying attention to each one of these sections, it's so easy to put this up here like this, or get it too far over like that. So you need to know where your sections are. So if you're really new to paper piecing, I really recommend that you just take the whole stack, put them on your light table, and mark all of those sections on the back side. It's about 5 minutes, and then they're done. And it will save you, it takes a lot longer to replace one piece than it does to mark the whole stack, because there's not that many lines on them. I'm going to take this piece, put it on line 7, fold back, tear, and again it's going to tear a hole, tore my paper, but I don't care. I'm just going to trim it, and then we're on this piece back here. That's my sew side, and since I'm getting down to the end, it's pretty easy to see if it fits where it's fitting on there. So I'm not going to bother with the marking. Some starch on there. And we're on our very last piece. I'm just going to tear that back. Tore a hole in my paper. And this piece, my sew side is this edge. That on there like that. I have fabric past that, fabric past here, but it's really tight fit here, so I'm going to move this down a little bit more Now I've got about 1/4 of an inch there to play with. And it moved on me, so I got to realign it here. All right, so let's put some starch on there. So when you get this done, the best thing you can do is just look at it before you start trimming and make sure that everything's covered. Because right now, if I had to come in here and redo one of these pieces, I can pull the paper off since it hasn't been trimmed, or pull the fabric off and redo it if I have to. Once it's trimmed, there's no fixing that section piece. I do know how to take it apart and fix it, but that's another video. So anyway, I know that it's all covered, so I'm going to hit it with an iron, and then I'm going to trim. All right, so we're going to start our trimming with the side pieces, and that's a straight line, so we're just going to trim that. Let's go ahead and put these over here, and then we're going to trim this edge. Okay, now we're going to take, and we're going to take our templates and figure out which one's going to work the best for me, right? And I'm going to do the outside with my leaf ruler. And I'm just going, it doesn't fit perfectly, but it gives me something that I can roll in the cutting process. So we're going to take this, and as I trim that off, I can roll, the ruler is rolling, and I can just keep that right on the line as I go. Okay, so this, one of these little templates, we have some other designs that use this size that are part of the B group, but they're not in this quilt. So if I'm looking,
that ruler set is called the Judy Mini Arcs.
Yeah, these are called the Judy Mini Arcs, and we have a lot of pieces, little tiny pieces that we put into big pieces, and they come in really handy for helping us cut those out. But this one here, if I'm looking at it, I can actually lay this right along that inside curve like that, because sometimes those inside curves are harder to cut. And this has a little piece of paper on the back. I'm gonna actually peel it off and show you guys, because a lot of people were like, I saw one comment, well, I don't like your rulers because you can't see through them. Well, it's because she didn't pull the paper off. And sometimes it's hard to get that started, but whenever you have rulers that have these sticky things on the back like that, then you have this paper and it protects, and you pull it off. And now I can see through it exactly where it needs to line up. And I'm gonna, on this little tiny curve, I should be using a smaller rotary cutter, but I'm not seeing one here, so we're just gonna have to make do with my big one. If I had a little rotary cutter, it would just roll right along the inside of that curve. So anyway, I didn't do a really good job with it because my rotary cutter is too big and it won't let me, it doesn't fit inside my curve. So you got to have the small rotary cutter to do that inside one. All right, we have, let me see if I can clean that just a hair where it won't fit. Now when we look at this, we have our piece done. And that looks really nice, all right? So let's clean this mess up. What time is it?
It is 3:06.
Okay, because I got a few other things I got to show you.
Oh, we're good.
So we're going to take these pieces. Oh, set them back in the bag. This is my B1 or B2 bag for this unit. I'm going to show you how to cut the big templates out. And then we'll finish the demo off with these spikes. And we'll work through those spikes in the cutting. But let's do these background pieces. So check for a correction on this piece. I had two patterns at home, and I'm pretty sure one of them told me that I needed two 22-inch pieces, but I need two 11-inch pieces, one 22. And then when I told Judelle about it, and I'm looking through the pattern, it's correct. So it's probably already been corrected in some of the patterns. So, but watch for that. If it says two 22-inch pieces, you really only need one 22-inch piece, and you're going to cut it into two 11-inch pieces. And I don't remember if I saw that on Facebook or if I saw it, or not Facebook, but Quiltster, or if I saw it on a chart, but I'll figure it out. But I'm pretty sure they fixed it already. Otherwise, my pattern wouldn't have been fixed. So this, we're going to go back to page 16. And in this book, basically, you started out with, we have to have a 3 3/4 inch strip, and that 3 3/4 inch strip is for the little, and I have it here, the little squares, and you only need to cut 4 of these, okay? And then you have to have one 22-inch strip, and it's pre-cut into two 11-inch strips, all right? So we already cut that, and then the other cut is 3 17-inch strips, which is the biggest piece. So if you look at the way your graphics are set up, these are a little bit more complicated to cut because you have to have your templates put together really close, and you don't have a lot of excess on these pieces left, right? So I'm looking at them saying, well, by the time I move my template 4 times, I'm probably not going to have enough left over for the last one. So what I'm going to do is find my fabric, and I'm going to cut it in half to start with. And then I only have to flip that template 1 time. So I'm going to take my yardage here, I have 2, and I'm just going to place it on the fold on both pieces. I'm going to cut my selvage off on both of them, and then cut that. I'm going to take all of these stickies off. I don't need those anymore. Now we're going to take this and fold this fabric perfectly in half. And I'm going to trim right on the fold. Now that gives me 4 layers And I'm going to put these two on top. Okay. So when I'm looking at this, I need a really straight edge on the top. So I'm going to grab my big ruler and I'm going to clean that up really quick so that I have a perfectly straight piece, and all four pieces are perfectly straight. So I'm just going to trim off a sliver here. Okay. And then I'm going to do the same thing on this side. And I'm going to get that, line my ruler up right along this edge and get a perfectly straight line so that I have a 90-degree corner sitting here. And there we go. So I have two edges that are cut perfect. So now I'm going to take my template piece, which is this one right here, and I'm going to put a little bit of repositionable glue on the back of that, and then I'm going to line it up perfectly along the edge. Then we're going to take and we're going to cut this piece out. And I'm just going to add just a hair to it to give myself a little bit of playroom. And we're going to take our leaf ruler template and I'm going to fold this back. Now when I flip this over, I have lots of playroom. And now I can trim around the whole template and get a perfect cut. So you can see there's not a lot of waste of fabric with this. So you want to be careful not to cut too big of a chunk to put underneath there to start with. We're going to trim. 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 Well, let's do this straight edge. Trim. And then I'm going to take my ruler. So one of the advantages of having the ruler here is I'm cutting through 8 layers of fabric right now. And the ruler gives me something to put pressure on that to keep those fabrics from sliding underneath it. Without the ruler, I wouldn't be able to get the pressure and keep that. It would slide on me. So I'd have to cut those out a little bit in a smaller stack. But I have 8 pieces now cut, and they're cut perfectly. So we're going to set those aside. These pieces are really easy. All we have to do is just put that template, one of those templates on it. So I'm just going to get rid of the salvage, and then I'm going to take one template. I have plenty of room, and I'm going to take it like that. Just do a quick cut along that edge. Do a quick cut along this edge. And because this is symmetrical, it doesn't matter whether my pieces are right side up or wrong side up. It's all going to be perfect. So I can just cut through my stack. Something else I'm going to show you. So if you don't like using repositionable glue, you can actually, after you cut, that one straight edge, you can put paper clip on there and then it doesn't move on you. We can cut this one. My paper clips are all stuck together. We can put one on that. Okay, so we only needed 4 of those. And I think you have about 40 templates in there, but you only need 1. So there you go. Now we're going to do this big one. So if you look at the big one, it's going to be the same thing as the other one, where we're going to cut the selvage off on this to start with. Alright, so then we're going to bring those 2 ends together. And we're going to figure out and we're going to cut those pieces right along that fold. And you want to double check and make sure you got it cut through all of them, which it didn't quite get the middle one. So I'm going to clean it off just a little bit. And that did it. So now we're going to take 4 of these and we're going to flip them over. And restack them. I've got one nice straight edge there, so I'm going to line that up. And then I'm going to cut a new edge along the top and clean that up. Okay. So now we're going to grab our big template, and this is the square one. I'm going to put a little bit of, and this is pretty big, so I'm actually going to put some paper clips on that, line that up along the edge to keep this from moving and sliding as well. The other thing you can do is when you're doing this many layers, you can actually put a pen through it if you're working with a flower pen. You just want to be careful because sometimes your pens will tweak the bottom fabrics. So the paper clips make it lay down really flat for you. So now I'm going to cut, and I'm just going to give myself about probably a 1/16 of an inch there overlap, because I don't want it to be perfect yet. Then we're going to fold this one back. And again, that's not a perfect cut at this point. And I'm going to give myself a little bit of playroom over here. Now we can flip this over and put this on the top. And it looks like we've got plenty of room. So the first thing I'm going to do is cut along this edge right here. And now I'm going to do my perfect cut. And then I'm going to flip it over here. And we're going to do a perfect cut on that one. Now I'm going to move these paper clips over to the two sides. Okay, now we're going to cut this one. And I am cutting these right on the line. I'm not leaving a 1/16 of an inch or anything. Okay, so all I have left is just my curve. So I'm going to take the paper clips off around the curve so that my ruler will sit on there. Then we're going to line that up and start cutting. And we're just going to hold that fabric underneath there. And that's a cut there again that you cannot do with unless you have a ruler there as a guide. All right. So we have those. Now, just make sure one. So I'm sewing a fabric, and I'm going to increase my stitch length to about a 3 on this one because I'm going through so many layers.
Hold on just a minute. You might be having a little bit of I was out for a second. Anyway, they might have missed the part about the TRP line, so
okay,
you might
so
just show it to them again.
Yeah. So there's a TRP line on your T template D1, and what I did here is I have all my pieces still stacked with the paper clip, and I sewed that, and I used about a 0.3 stitch on it, or a 3. Because you want it a little bit bigger because you're sewing through 8 layers of fabric. Okay, so now I'm going to show you if I need to mark these and I want to see them on the top. When I pull that stitch out, this fabric is the weave's too loose on it. You won't be able to see those holes in there. So I can actually just take my paper and I can take my chalk pencil, and this is from Sewline, and it's the best marking pencil ever put out on the market, and it comes with 3 different colors. You can get a white, pink, and then you can get one that's the color of a lead, and they work great. And the eraser on them takes everything off. So now I can just mark that right along that where I did my sewing on the TRP line, and then I can fold the next piece back and I can mark it again. I can mark it again, and we just keep going through until we get all 8 layers of these done. So on this group of blocks, sometimes if you're just, some of the patterns don't require you to sew that TRP line, and we did try to remember to put them in, but when we're working with mixers, sometimes we have 3 different people. Actually, there's 4 of us that do the writing. On occasion, we forget to tell you you don't need that TRP line. But on this pattern, you really should sew it, and I'm going to show you where it matches up and how it's used. So this piece would fit right here, what this TRP line does is it lines up to the sew line right here. So it allows you to get these outside border pieces in position so you don't end up with it too big, or because sometimes your fabric will stretch. So that's what that TRP line does, is it lines you up right there. The other place you're going to find a TRP line is on the next unit that I'm going to show you. And the purpose of that TRP line is to keep you lined up. And I can't remember if it lines up on this mark or this one, but it keeps it squared up so that you can't get it keeps you from tweaking those pieces as you're sewing the squares together. All right, so we have that cutting done. So we're going to finish off with the last unit. And I'm just going to set it all up for paper piecing. And we're going to just start doing some paper piecing.
We actually don't have to paper piece the last one.
Huh?
We don't have to do that unit today.
Yeah, but I'm going to, because the next one we're going to do all of the curved piecing and set the blocks together. I'm going to restructure her stuff today. So next week we're going to focus all on curved piecing and setting the block groups together. So we're going to do some paper piecing.
On the 22nd, we're doing that.
And we also have,
On the 22nd.
Yeah.
Is the date.
The next one is that. And so I'm going to go through the cutting with you on that as well. So let's pull this out. So we cut the papers on this earlier. And these pieces go in hit this bag. So I'm going to put these away. And we're going to move back to page 13 and it's called the Sun Ray, and it's group C2. Let's put these pieces away so we don't lose them. Here we go. So on this is one of those where we have to pre-cut the template layout sheets as well. Right? And I think I still have to, this is template layout sheet C21. So there's an extra set of layout sheets with this one. The reason for the extra set is we set up all of our instructions are based off of cutting through 8 layers with one template layout sheet. On this we need 16 stacks, so we have to have 16 layers. So this will be used for 8 of the pieces, and this one will be used for 8 of the pieces. So first of all, we're going to lay these out. And I'm going to do 4 and then set the other 4 aside, and I'm just going to put those templates with it so I don't forget that they're already there. And then we're going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Oh, I have a staple in it. I forgot I stapled these. So we're going to put these with this group as well. So we're going to start And stacking all 4 layers the way it tells us to, which it always tells you to open them up 42 inches wide. All right, and now I'm going to look at my picture, and on my picture I get 2 pieces, so my layout sheet's going to be on 2 pieces, and it's at an angle here, so I'm going to take this one and then cut this one like that. All right, but I have my fold in there, so I'm going to go hit this with an iron really quick. You're what?
Oh.
Yeah. All right, so I pressed that out. Now we're just going to take our repositionable glue and just put just a little bit on it. And then we're going to take our ruler here. And now I'm just going to flip the whole thing over like this. And then we're grab paper clips. Now we're going to look at this. We're going to find cut line 1. Use my add a quarter ruler. And cut line 1 is my section 1 piece. Cut line 2 is my section 17, so I'm going to put it right there. And then my cut line 3 and then we're going to go to cut line 4, and then we're going to go to cut line 5. All right, and number 5 is my 15, so that's going to go right there basically. And then we're going to go to cut line 6, and then we're going to do cut line 7, and we're going to do cut line 8. And so then this one is going to be 13, this one's going to be 11, 9, 7, 5, 3, and 1. So now I have these all in chronological order. So now we have these pieces. So these are my templates that go on to the different colors. So let's go ahead and cut these apart, because in the pattern it tells you to cut them apart, because we're using multiple colors instead of cutting them all from the same color. And then we're going to go to All right, so now we're going to look at the template number. So this is my number 16. And then 2 down from that would be a 14. So let's find 14. This one is 12. We should have a 10, an 8, a 6, a 4, and a 2. So that's the order there. So the first fabric that I want to cut is going to be from this one. And I need to get 16 pieces. So what I want to do is look at the cutting instructions, and I'm going to see that I have probably about this much fabric left over on it, so I don't have to be really careful on those templates. But I only have one template. I don't need to cut apart all 8 templates. So, and because I matched up the color before when I was going through and doing all my reading, I know exactly which template has to go with it. So I can take this, and I am going to put some repositionable glue on this, because I'm going to take it on and off probably. So we're going to take our small ruler, and we're going to do the first cut. Then we're going to flip this, and we're going to do the next cut. And then we're going to flip it. So that gives me, I'm at 4 pieces. This is going to give me 6 pieces. This one is going to move me up to 8 pieces. Right. Now I'm going to flip this. Actually, I probably shouldn't flip that because I have that angle. So let's just use our starch pen and press this. Pull down to there. And I'm going to hit that with an iron really quick. And we're going to take this and we're going to line it right up with that angle that we have cut. So what you're going to find is when you're doing it this way, your template pieces have a tendency to grow. So you want to look really close at your templates and make sure that if they're going to grow, you want to do, instead of moving the stack with it, what you would want to do is come in here and move this out and keep that down to the size it's supposed to be. This one I had plenty of room, but on some of these I don't have that much room. So I lost count. I'm just going to finish cutting up the piece. I think that this gives me my 16. So there's 2, 4, 6, 8, and then there's 8 there. So we're going to put a paper clip, and then I'm going to actually put a paper clip on the sew side of the second stack as well. All right. So this is what's left over. And then we're going to do that with the next piece. And this one. And so this template, I have lots of room on this one, so I can actually just do the stack on the whole thing. So when we allow you guys to use several colors, with the template layout sheet, realize that your cutting effort is going to take you a lot longer. Is it?
It is 3:41, and we have a question too.
Okay, and then we want to show, so I'm just going to finish cutting this, and then we're going to show you some other little tricks or something else that you may really find interesting at this point. So remember, just before we show you this, yesterday when I cut everything to prepare for the demo, I had about 8 hours. Now, it took me longer to do it that way because I had to stop and think, well, I can't cut all of this out. So I was constantly telling myself what I could do and what I couldn't do, and I was trying to keep everything organized. But I would say for me that there's probably 8 to 9 hours of cutting with this set of instructions because we have so many colors in it, and the more colors you have, the longer it's going to take. So I think this gives us
So someone asked the question, why did you add the TRP line on all at once? Wouldn't you need those on individual pieces of fabric rather than the whole stack? Did we go over that?
Yeah, the reason why is because by sewing them all together at one, then when I fold it back, I marked them. And then when I pull the TRP line out, I don't have to go back and sew all of those because I have it marked on the front and the back side. And I'm only going to need that as long as I'm sewing those. So the chalk is going to stay long enough, and as long as I have a mark on the front and back side, then I don't have to worry about resewing them. It's called cheating. And we do a lot of that.
And then she just pulls it out. Pulls that seam out. But the other thing is it keeps it all together that way too. So it's just one of the many ways we do it.
So we're going to finish up this video. Judel's going to come up here and finish. Well, I can do it.
You can do it.
Yeah. So, and we'll finish that up and get that ready for next week.
So we got a package from Stitch in Heaven.
Yes, and so Stitch in Heaven has a new machine, and I'm pretty sure it's a very, very, very expensive machine. And one of the things that they've been wanting to do is figure out how to pre-cut all of our pieces. And so they actually went to the effort to get the whole thing organized with this one, and I'm going to show you. Now you do have to pay more for your kits because they're already pre-cut, but all of the pre-cutting, they're going to start selling kits that all the pieces are pre-cut for you. And so here's my pattern. This one is group B2, which that's the first one that I showed you. This is group B1, which are these pieces. This one is the group that we were just working on right there. And those are all of the backgrounds, and they even included a stack here for swatch bags, so that you can actually add swatches to your foundation papers. So if you don't want to cut your own, you do have the option. Aren't they doing a class on this too?
So I believe that they're actually tuned in live with us. Like they have people there that are tuned in live with us at the store today.
Yeah.
So say hi, Tina.
Hi, Tina. If you're here, are you teaching this in a class?
Yeah.
Okay.
So they're meeting to watch your classes, and then I think that they're holding some extra finished up little classes or something. But anyway, this is how your kit comes.
You don't have to, all you have to do is show up at class and start cutting. Look at those, aren't those cool?
Yeah, so anyway, you probably couldn't
And it's already stacked in the color order, so she's got it set up in your sewing order, so everything's there. And all three. So all you have to do is you could take your little swatches and put on your papers if you want, or you can number them and they're all ready to start sewing. So all you have to do is just pick these up. And you're going to have your first batch sewn before I could even get it cut out. So there you go. Isn't that cool? And then they have them but they have them all bagged with the bag numbers, the color group number, everything's ready for you. So if you go over and sign up for one of their classes, if you're down in that area, or you want, I mean, this is really awesome.
Yeah, so Geodes is the first one they did, and then they're gonna do that. I think they're doing Fortune Teller next, and then they're doing a few more, and they're just gonna start getting these all set up so that they can prep them for you. And it's not the same price as if you buy it as a pattern.
Just the fabric.
Just the fabric, but I mean, just watching what we did for the little bits that we cut out today, I mean, probably 70% of our video is a cutting demo, an organization demo, and then Mom had several hours to do it in advance. And you get these all put together, and you don't have to worry about those mistakes. So if that's something that you think would be a super cool way to get started and save you hours and hours and hours of time,
I think it is.